Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Digital to Dice podcast. I am Dave.
I'm Ron.
And Ron, we got episode 162 today.
We have done a full baseball season.
Yes, we have. We've done a full baseball
It,
season.
it is Fan Appreciation Day. And if you sat in the third deck, you might win the car. That's what they use. I know the Mets used to do that.
Did they give away a car?
If the team was bad enough and there wasn't any playoffs, just to get people in the seats, there were some cars given away.
Oh, fantastic. So we are actually live on YouTube tonight recording this as well as the podcast, which will come out later on. And we are joined on the Dice Line by the creator of the Digital Diamond PC baseball game, Mark Cohen. Mark, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being on.
Absolutely.
So we do have one question we ask all our guests before we get into the actual interview. And that question is, if you could go back in time and attend any sporting event, what would that event be?
I have a good one for that.
All right, let's hear it.
When I was a kid, I was probably around 13. My friend invited me to a Yankees game. So we drove up to the Yankees game. We were watching the game. And the guy who drove us there, his father did not like traffic. And he was very eager to leave the game early. So, midway through the game, he took us out of the game and into the car, and off we went back home. On the way home, we had the pleasure of listening to the George Brett Pine Tar incident.
Oh, no.
Oh!
And we left the game and missed it. So I still have the ticket stub to that game. And if I could go back in time, I'd go back and see it again, and I would stay. I wouldn't leave.
Oh, no.
And I had a thing since that happened for really the rest of my life where I wouldn't leave a baseball game early.
Not after that, no.
No, 18-1, and my wife and I would stay. We would never leave the game.
Did you, because you had tickets to the first Pine Tar game, did you try to get them to take you for that last half inning? I remember listening to that on the radio.
Did you really? Yeah.
With Ron Guidry in right field, because Billy Martin was, being a Billy Martin. Yeah, that was crazy.
He didn't take that very well.
No.
That is crazy. So anyway, all right. So we have some people in the chat room here that are saying hi. So we'll say hi real quick. So we have Brandon in here. Hi, Brandon. Hi, David. Hi, Ron. And BJ's here as well. As
that
we
is
get
a
going.
wild story.
Yeah, and so guys, if you have questions, hold off until the end because we want to talk to Mark here about his game, and then you can fire off questions at the end. All right, so Mark, what we want to find out from you is what got you into gaming? What were some of the first games that you played?
Let's see. In college, I played a lot of Zelda. Blades of Steel, which was a hockey game.
Yep.
Yeah, you like that, Dave.
Make the pass.
And also played a lot of Earl Weaver baseball.
Okay.
In college. And golf. We liked to do golf games as well. And then as I got older, I kind of narrowed it down more to just really sports games and mostly just baseball, computer games. Started to play a lot of Diamond Mine baseball, which was my main game for quite some time.
Okay. Did you ever play any tabletop games, or was it mostly PC?
I started to get into Stratomatic and acquired quite a few seasons and played that. But I had a hard time really getting into it, and I think it was because of the overhead of the scoring and keeping statistics and such. It was just a lot of work to go through to get that same experience you would get in like a Diamond Mine game. But I really liked and preferred to play with the dice and the cards, but it just never grabbed me as much because of that problem. And with the Board Game Companion, it's the first time where I've really just been, I don't want to play anything else anymore. It's just, it made it, all the things that I didn't like about cards and dice is gone now.
Right. Okay. So what was the first game that you actually designed?
Right. It wasn't a game. It was actually a utility for Diamond Mine baseball. It was called Hindsight. And I didn't like the fact that, well, I would play a lot of Diamond Mine. I'd get all these great box scores, but I'd want to find a particular event, and I couldn't. And I wrote a little tool that parsed all of the Diamond Mine baseball box scores, and you could specify parameters, and it would find games that met those parameters. And that was just a tool that I gave away for free for Diamond Mine. So that was the first thing I did related to gaming.
Okay.
At the time, Diamond Mine was well ahead of the curve. It still has the most descriptive play-by-play I've seen in a computer baseball game.
Yeah, it's a great game. It's an absolute great game.
So how did that? No, so you did the helper there, and then is that what brought you into Digital Diamond?
Eventually, yes. I'm a computer scientist by trade, so I just like to program, and I was always looking for fun things to program. And one thing I always had in the back of my head from the very beginning was I wanted to write a baseball simulator. I never think I would make one that was fully functional, but I wanted to play around with that. But the really impetus for me to go was related to Diamond Mine, but it was the fact that they were out of nowhere decided to sell the business there, and I had lots of money in those libraries, and I was like, this is wrong. And especially at a time when it was right around the time that data started to become freely available online. So, there's people out there spend a lot of money on this game, and all of a sudden now they might go bye-bye. And I said, that's it, enough. I'm writing my own game. And that's what really got me to really take it seriously.
Okay. What are some of the big changes in the game here? Starting off with the first edition, now we're already on 10. What are some of the big things that you've added to this game along the way?
Boy, that's a good question. I can remember the first time I put it out there it was just about free. And somebody said to me, it'd be really cool if you could have the as played lineups. Oh, wow. Okay. Added that. It'd be really cool if they had the real schedule in there. Oh yeah, that's cool. Let's add that. It'd be neat if we could customize the play-by-play. Okay, let's add that. And over the last 11 years that this has been developed, it's really been the customers that have driven it. I put something out there, and they say this is. It didn't have much then, but the early customers were great, and they said, "Can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do this?" And I just started adding more and more things that went on. The playoff feature, we didn't have a way to create playoffs, and we added that. What else? There's tons of things.
Must be adding ballparks, adding logos.
Yeah, the ballparks and the logos. The box score search, which is Hindsight, upgraded for Digital Diamond Baseball. So that tool came into Digital Diamond at some point where you can go in and search for events and box scores. So we added that. Then the game summaries, which was added, where you could actually have a game summary that was a textual based, but you could also customize those as well. Tons of things that have gone over the last 11 years. Every new release, we try to do several things that are new. And 90% of the things I put in the game come from the customers.
Right. Now, one of the things that you did from early on, or maybe the first version on, was it was kind of a smushed kind of card and dice, where the batter had a virtual card and the pitcher had a virtual card, and then you did some mumbo jumbo behind the scenes to make that work. What was your thought process behind that?
I still, a lot of people miss that, being able to see the two players, batter and pitcher's card, as well as the combined card. There's a fair number of people who really want to get that back. And the reason it went away, I like seeing that too. I think it's really fun to see, okay, this is how that batter would do. And look at what happened when he faces Nolan Ryan, or vice versa. But it's a space issue, which is just always a problem. I never have enough screen space. Now, if I knew everybody was going to have super high definition monitors, but I don't, and I don't want to do that. So it's always a space issue, and dropping those two individual cards went because there wasn't room.
Are you still doing the game in Java?
The game is written in Java, and most of the user interface is done in HTML and JavaScript.
Okay.
So the Java is now only the back end, and the UI is done with web-based technologies, whereas the early versions were 100% Java with no web-based stuff.
I remember trying to download Java to play the game because
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
yeah.
Yeah, it was a big deal when I could package that up. There's an open version of Java that I'm allowed to distribute. So that made things a lot easier. And then Steam made things a lot easier too, because the installation and updates are much easier to manage through Steam.
So let's talk about the Digital Diamond PC baseball game, and then we'll get into the companion part of it. Okay.
Yep.
So the game itself, it's a self-contained game. It contains how far back do the seasons go?
I think good seasons that are, fully packed with what you could put in them, I think starts at 1920. I can check. Hold on one second.
Okay. So we go back quite a ways. And these
1927.
Okay. So we go back to 1927, and that's going to get you the players, the schedules, as played lineups too.
As played lineups, transactions, all the players that played in that season. I think that's what you can say with certainty across all those seasons. You'll have those.
Okay. Now
Split
the game.
You don't get there. You lose the split stats when you start going further back.
Okay. So the game itself plays out where you can either have the computer roll 3 dice, and they're 3, what are they, 3 10-sided dice?
10s, yeah.
3 10-sided dice, or you can roll your own and type in the results as well, right? So that's how you can play this game here. You can manage one team or both teams if you want. Games do get simulated that you do not want to play, which is a key. So that way there you could just play one team and still be part of a season, which is fantastic. Yep. So it does kind of all those things that you'd really expect out of a baseball game. Now, me and Ron were talking about this. It's kind of a half open, half closed engine, if you will, because you do have a card that comes up that shows what the outs and the hits are, but you actually have to wait for the play-by-play to kind of get the final detail for the play. Talk about that.
That's a great question. A really great comment. I really wanted the game to have a real life kind of dice and card feel to it, and it fell short. Just rolling those 3 dice got kind of boring after a while, especially since you can tell, the card there is all in order. So right away what the thing is right when the dice hit. So it kind of fell short there. And starting in version 11, that is where 90% of the effort is going into fixing that problem. I will say one of the goals of Digital Diamond Baseball was to make it as transparent as possible. So though you don't really see the things that are going on behind the scenes, there's about 100 options that you can tweak that change what happens behind the scenes. That's just nowhere as fun as a chart, right? We want charts and we want dice. So in version 11, we are actually implementing the entire traditional engine will be based on charts that you will see. You can print them out.
Oh, wow.
In addition, and this is really cool, in those charts, there'll be a digital version in the game. And for every outcome on the chart, instead of it saying single, it will actually be the board game command that the engine's going to run. So for any one of those slots and any of those charts, you can go in and put whatever command you want there. The game will come with a set of commands that make for a good, accurate replay. But users can go in, and this is that transparency, because nobody's ever as happy with the engine. Why is it doing this? And I always wanted to say, well, just change the options. Well, now I can say change the chart and put any board game companion command in there you want.
So let me follow that up with then, for the first 9 versions, it was its own independent contained game. And after this was initially released, then came the board game companion. What made you want to do that? Because A, it's a great thing, but B, that's takes a lot of huevos for a game creator to say, no, I'm not really happy with what I'm doing. Play whatever game you want.
This is just fun for me, and I do what my customers want. And it was their recommendation. And they had made it several times, and I was like, yeah, that's kind of cool. But I don't know, maybe. And then finally I said, all right, let's do it. And, it was awesome. It was the best thing I've done. For me personally, I always liked to play Digital Diamond Baseball, but now I can't stop, and I can use those cards I've had in these boxes. And So it came from customers, and thankfully, 99% of the time when they tell me to do something, I'm glad I did it, and that was fun for sure.
Yeah. Well, I know that we were going back and forth on emails, and you had commented on you watched the videos that I did, and you were thanking me for some of the things I said in the videos that cleared up a few things. In fact, one of them was when I first got the game, I didn't know how to load a season.
Yeah.
I was like, where's the season? So I created something new, and then I'm like, do I import? And I wasn't finding it. And as I clicked around, when I clicked on library, that's where all the seasons were. But initially, I wasn't thinking that,
Yeah.
And so you commented on that, and I was like, yeah, that's just something that just eluded me as someone being brand new to the game.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that was kind of weird was is when you want to change people, pinch hitters and pitchers, or whatever, you really need to click on the picture of the person, not the name. And that was kind of strange at first too, because I'm like, well, how come I can do this, but I can't do that? But now it's like when you click on the picture, all the options are there. And so it was a couple of little things that I was like, it was just different, that I was like, I'm used to clicking here and clicking here, but this game does it this way.
Yeah.
But now that I found that everything is like super, and it probably took me like a half hour or so to figure all this out. But initially it was like, oh, I'm a little lost here. It's like, Ron, how do I play a game here? And but it get up and run. But you were very responsive to that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the only way the game gets better is to pay attention to the people that are using it. And in computer science, there's a field called HCI, which is human computer interaction. And you'll do studies before you release a piece of software, just watching people use the software and learning. And I don't have the resources for that. So, but I do have them reporting back to me on what they're experiencing. And that kind of does the HCI for me. But it's really fun to watch you go up there and play the game because I see it through a user's eye, and that's just
people have said that. Okay, now Digital Diamond itself is a fun game. I played a couple of games of that. I let the computer roll dice. I rolled dice. I enjoyed it. I do have my favorite baseball games, and so I guess we're on the companion talk now of Digital Diamond. As the companion, you can play any game you want and input the codes in there, and now you play. So and I'll be quite honest with you. Since I picked up Digital I call it Digital to Diamond. I apologize. I'm so used to Digital to Dice.
Call it all kinds of different things.
It's Digital Diamond, but I've said Digital to Diamond, and there's no disrespect in that whatsoever.
Dave, what really kills me is that there are a lot of people who call it Diamond Mind.
Oh, okay, yeah, I can see that. Since I picked up Digital Diamond, and I was talking to Ron about this the other day, I have played more cards and dice baseball in these last 2 to 3 weeks than I've played in my entire life.
Me too. Absolutely. I'm playing a whole season, which I would have never done.
Exactly. I started playing with Pocket Pennant Run, which I really like.
I do too. Yeah.
It's a fun game, but with me, baseball, I have fun with baseball, but I'm not going to get all crazy with stats on the table. Now that I can play it, and I can play as part of a season, play any game I want in a season, I feel like I can play like a game of the week. I can play a National League game, American League game, my favorite team, a crappy team. And I'm contributing to that season while Digital Diamond is simulating the other games.
Yeah.
And I'm enjoying that. And then I said, you know something? I found a new game called Season Ticket Baseball that I think it's like a Pocket Pennant, like 5.0. Pocket Pennant Run is great when I want to play something real simple, and that's not the disrespect in the game. It's a simple game, and it's a fun game, and it's a perfect introductory game, and I enjoy the simplicity of it. But sometimes I want to be a little bit more challenged. Season Ticket challenges me to find out what's going on, and I've been playing both. And then you know what I did? I took out Payoff Pitch, and I played all 3 games using your companion in the 1979 season. And I cannot stop playing this. And I'm the hockey guy, and I'm addicted right now. And I'm looking, what other game do I have 1979 that I can roll out and play in this helper? Because this companion is so fun. And people always ask, what's a good companion for baseball? This and that and the other thing. It's like, well, this is the one. In fact, Ron was the one that says, I think you'll like the game, but the companion you're gonna really love. And Ron hit it right on. Ron knows me very well, and he's like, yeah, that's it. And so a couple of the things here for people who haven't played this or played the companion, you do get the as played lineups, so you can jump right into a season and not have to set up anything.
From 27 forward, right?
27. I believe so. Yeah.
Yep. And so if you want to play your favorite team or whatever it is, jump right in. I like that I got the players' pictures to work immediately. And you have, when you go into the season options, there's 4 different ways that you can input pictures. I just on our Facebook group, there's somebody posted all the pictures there. So you go and you download the season. I just dropped that season into a folder.
Yeah.
And all those pictures come up because it has 4 different ways of formatting. There's some games that you have to format it exactly right. This looks for 4 different ways. And that was one of the ways it was formatted. And the pictures come up, and then the logos. I dropped in the logos myself, and I know that you can search to put in the logos, but I like to put in my own just one by one because I have certain logos that I like better than others.
Yeah.
But I had the logos, the fields, and all the player pictures in like within an hour, and I was up and running and playing. I was like, this is amazing. I've never done it that fast in any other game.
Yeah, those patterns that you use to find your pictures. I went out and looked at all the picture formats that were common on the internet, and that's how I picked those, so that hopefully a lot of the things you grabbed would match that pattern. And let's face it, when you get these computer games, it's fun to play games. Everybody loves to play games, but it's really fun to configure your ballparks and your pictures. Some people spend more time doing that than actually.
Oh yeah, I've done that myself in a few other games. I spent a lot of time jazzing it up.
I think we've done a couple shows on Dave, taking more time to jazz up things than play games. So.
I do, yeah. It cuts into my playing time, all the dolling
fun.
up I do. But it is fun. And what was really fun is when you bring in the fields, and you can have day field and night field. When you first bring it in, you have to set where everybody is. That is so easy. You just click on pitcher and click where you want the pitcher. Click on first base, click where you want first base. And there's no dragging or it's so easy to set up. And then if you get into the game, you don't like it, you just exit out real quick, go back in, just do a couple clicks and it's all fixed. Yeah. And it's beautiful. And I like how you can make the player boxes bigger or smaller. You can make it larger. And what was ingenious is you can add individual notes to each player. And I went in 1979. Again, Ron will laugh at me here, but I went to every player in Pocket Pennant and put their ratings in the notes section. So I can jump in. I can jump in the 1979 right now. And aside from a couple guys that were traded that I didn't put the whatever, I can go in now without the cards and play.
Yeah, you can just play it straight up. Yeah,
Pocket Pennant because it has all the ratings right there.
Yeah, well,
in your game.
I have 2 comments about that. First is that whose idea was it to add that notes? My customers.
Okay.
Right? Mm-hmm. And this is what they do. They make the game better. The other comment was in version 11. I like the idea of not being. I mean, I like having cards around, but I like the idea of being able to look on the field when I got to find an arm or a field.
Right. Oh, it's so much faster.
Yeah, much faster. Starting in version 11, we're shooting to have an option where the game will produce Status Pro cards. That you can bring up on the screen, and special fast action cards for Status Pro that are generated on the fly, so that you can play Status Pro without having all the ratings and everything in the game itself.
Now that is abandonware, essentially.
Yes, it's the algorithms for creating those cards is free. That's why you can get seasons for free or very inexpensive. It's a good game to play. It's a lot of fun to play, especially if you use it as fast action card game. It's very, very quick and easy to move through. So in addition to having the traditional engine and the board game companion, I'm also hoping to have a default dice and card tabletop game that you can play in Digital Diamond Baseball without having to print cards or buy cards.
It's kind of like the company from Long Island that claims to be 3 games in 1, except for you're actually going to do it because, or it's, your game, the Status Pro, and BYOG, bring your own game.
Yes, that's the goal.
You've actually, I know from just getting one of the early editions of the board game companion. Well, it's the game with the board game companion into what I sent Dave before the Steam sale where he picked it up. You've obviously worked with some other game developers to get that to work better for you, the board game companion. Or have you? Because I know there's some stuff for Pocket Pennant, and I believe there's some
season ticket.
So, what kind of feedback and given back and forth have you had with other game developers in developing the board game companion?
None really.
Really?
Pocket Pen and I did contact about a couple of things that I offered to add to the Digital Diamond Baseball that would work nicely with Pocket Pennant. And they were really nice, but there was some of it they were planning on doing in their software. So, and the as-played lineups that they had to their software was one of those things. But no, I didn't talk to any of the game developers. What I did was my customers who played all these different card games were beta testing this thing before it was released. And I threw it out there and I said, look, play your games and tell me what's not working. What commands do you need? And over a period of about 3 weeks, I got lots of feedback that allowed me to add the commands that would be supported or needed by most of these games. We're not 100% there. There's some commands in some games, rare commands
right.
support yet. Yeah.
I've done roster card. I don't know if you're familiar with that one.
No.
It's all team sheets. Windsor Greg Sylvan. So Fall Classic Baseball, Play Ball, Valhalla, if you go back far enough. He's created some good ones over the years. But roster card, because of my disability, I really can't do cards. I can do team sheets, but not cards. And so all the it's a rather expensive purchase, but you get everything. I mean, it's 120 seasons for the purchase price.
Oh, wow.
And it's a lifetime subscription. And so it all comes on either Excel sheets or PDF. So all I have to do is have the Excel sheet or the PDF for the team I'm playing. And then you can use Digital Diamond to play the game, roll the dice, or there's actually a flipper on the Lewis Research site. Cool. And can play the game that way, and it tells me where to go. So yeah, it's just tremendous with that. So I can see especially because of the graphics, your graphics are better than strats. I could really see someone actually doing a strat replay, just like when we were kids, using the board game companion because of just how it moves everything along.
Yeah.
It's so customizable. In fact, I was watching some of the videos that you did, and I was watching you on the Saber, was it the Baseball Sabermetrics channel that you did? I forget which one it was, but it was you did a video there I was watching, and you were explaining the game, and you were going through things that I haven't even discovered yet as far as customization and search options in the reports. But what I did is you have the ability to edit the colors of the team. And so what I did in 79, that's the season I'm playing, I changed all the colors so the home team is white.
Yeah, I like that.
With their the team name and their color, and then an outline. So and every away team is either a dark or a powder blue or something, or a gray. And so now when I play the game, I played 3 games last night and I was getting tired, and I was like, oh, who am I playing again? The white team. And I know the white team is now the home team. So I never have to worry about that. But the idea, and I did that with other games too. I've gone in and changed it so all the home teams have white jerseys. I just think that's how it was back then, and I like that. So so the customization doing that is fantastic. Some of the other things that are really fantastic about this game. Now, again, I'm a casual baseball guy, so especially when I play cards and dice, I don't know what I'm doing as far as bringing in pitchers and stuff like this. Your game, what it does is when you go into the bullpen, I believe it shows you the available players and pitchers for that day.
That's right.
Because sometimes I have all these cards. I'm like, where's Fritz and where's Ferris and where's Jones? And Ron's like, they probably weren't available to play that day. And I was like, oh, well, that makes it easier now. And also makes it harder because I can't bring in some of these guys. Right. There's a couple of times that I was like, who do I bring in? I only got a couple of guys because what's really great is you list the upcoming pictures.
Right. Yeah.
So now it's like, well, I don't want to bring in Nolan Ryan because he's scheduled to pitch the next game. And I don't want to bring in this other guy, Tanana, because Tanana's scheduled to pitch after Ryan.
Right.
So that helps a guy like me, who to bring in. And in fact, some of the relief pitchers were orange and red. That means that maybe they were overused that weeks in other games. So now, and I know when you're rolling your own dice and putting in the codes that, like Ron says, the cards never get tired. Yeah. But to be fair, I brought in a guy that was orange, according to, Digital Diamond. And I was like, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take his stamina, whatever game I was playing, and I'm going to cut the stamina in half. Yeah. So if I can only get 2 innings out of him, I'm going to get 1. Yep. And that's kind of my workaround of him being tired coming into the game. Yep. That brought the immersion of this particular cards and dice game tenfold. Because now I'm making decisions as a manager and I'm bringing in a tired pitcher, but can you get me 1 inning?
Yep.
And that was so cool. It really was. So that is so helpful. You know, with just the bullpen thing, and then the players on the bench who you can bring in, and and I found that it was not really that hard to figure out how to switch guys in the lineup and put them in. You had some great videos that showed how to do that. But there's so many things that this game, the companion does, and even the game does as well. But I found myself, I've been playing more Cards and Dice baseball. This game, I got it customized with the logos and the fields and the colors, and it's helping me play the game as well, because it's telling me who to bring in and who not. And it's like, it even says, oh, if you're going up against a lefty, this is this guy, maybe a right, this guy. It's more than a companion.
Yeah.
It's really more than that.
Yeah. That the transactions are determining who's available in those dialogue boxes, right, while you're playing. And I find myself, like, I'm playing the 2011 season right now, and I didn't have Utley for the first month and a half. So I'm watching the transactions, and I'm waiting for him to pop up and get better. And bam, there he is. Now he's on my lineup. And you pay attention to a lot more when you have the whole season going on behind you, and it's helping you do that.
It is. It's helping me learn, like, how to play baseball a little bit better, because I would just play the one-off and just whatever and have fun. But now I'm like in a season, and it's like, this is so fun. It is. So if you're in the chat room, we're going to take questions in a couple of minutes here. I got a couple more questions for you myself here. Okay. How would you set up a playoffs? Can you set up just playoffs? If I wanted to play a World Series or the Final Four teams, can you do that?
Yes. There's a playoff page, a playoff editor, I think it's called. Let me check what that's called. In the game, on the main menu, there is a postseason option.
Now, is that in the library? So you'd have to open the library first?
Yes.
And then go into that? Okay.
Yep. You open the library first, then you go into the playoff button on the main menu. And that brings up an opportunity to generate a postseason. And there is a video in the user guide that walks you through that. A couple of ways you can do it. But essentially, you're picking, and it has some buttons that shows you the standings for the season you just completed, if you want to use that to determine who you put in the playoffs, or you might be just building a tournament, whatever. Okay. And you set up rounds, and it automatically schedules those games on your schedule. And then as you play them, like if it's a 7 game and somebody sweeps it at 4, it takes away those remaining 3 games off the calendar.
Okay.
So it automatically manages that schedule and allows you to work through those rounds to play that playoff. And the stats are kept separately as well. So in Digital Diamond Baseball, you can look at the playoff stats, regular season stats are separately, so you can follow that as well.
Now, could you play teams from different years or eras?
Yes, absolutely. What you want to do is you create a separate empty library, import those teams in, either from Layman or from other libraries that you have installed on your computer. And then once you have those teams in there, you can set up any tournament you want.
Okay. Can you have, so I'm playing 1979 right now. Is it possible for me to open 1979 and play it, say, in Pocket Pennant Run, and then open 79 and play it at the same time with say, APRA or something like that? Or can you only have one 1979 open?
You can have multiple instances of a library open for the same year. What you do is install the library. So you would install 1979, and then you do the, I think it's called rename. Let's see.
Okay.
There's a button for those, save as. Hit save as on that, and then you can call it 1979 part 2 or something. Okay. I have a bunch of them. Like I might have what you have, 1979 Pocket Pennant, and I have one 1979 Stratus Pro, and so on.
Right. Okay. Can you jump in and play any as played game? So let's just say, hey, I went to a Red Sox game in 1979 or 80, and I want to go play that game. So I'm going to, create the library 1980, go to July, play that game. Can I go right there and do that?
Yes, you can. And I've done that. It's fun. I got my old scorebooks out because I used to score every game I went to. And I just picked a random game. It was like, I forget, Robert Person for the Phillies, who had like a really good game at the bat, actually. And Greg Jeffries, there was a game with Greg Jeffries where he hit for the cycle. And I just found that game and I played it in Digital Diamond Baseball using the as played lineups.
I hope you didn't decide to retire on those Mets Greg Jeffries rookie cards.
Now that's not gonna so you could just play that game. You're not gonna have to wait for all those other games to sim, are you?
Correct. You don't have to do that. But
Okay.
if you wanted to have the exact available rosters, because the transactions move along, right?
Right.
as you're
Okay.
saying, it makes sense to fast play to that day
Okay.
so that the lineups and rosters will be correct.
I see. Okay, that makes sense. So let's just say I did that. I played one game. I just go into my library and just hit reset or renew or refresh and to clear that game. And is that what you would do?
Yeah, just restart it and you can start all over again. Yep.
Okay, fantastic. The out of town scores that you have is kind of fun. So there's a box that you check if you want to see the out of town scores. So when I jump into my game, do they automatically play immediately? Or is there a way that you could, so if I'm playing, like I say, the Red Sox or whatever, and can I follow along inning by inning, or are those games done? And then as soon as you hit out of town, you get the final scores immediately?
No, what happens? Well, it's kind of it plays a trick on you. When you start the game, your game that you're going to play, it plays all those games in the background. But when you go to the out of town scoreboard, it doesn't show you what happened. It only shows you what happened through a certain inning.
Okay.
And as you play and go back to that out of town scoreboard, you'll see those scores advance.
Okay. So it's okay, good.
But the games have really been finished already. And if you quit your game early and look at the schedule, you'll see why.
Oh no, that's fine. But I just didn't know, like, 'cause occasionally I like to look at that just for fun and say, let's see how we're tied with this team, how they doing. So that does kind of play along with you. That's fantastic.
There's
Now,
also an option. There's an option called stagger the innings. So if you have that set to false, the inning that it shows you will mirror the inning you're in.
Okay.
If you're in the fifth inning, the scoreboard will show you fifth inning scores.
Okay.
But if you turn that to true, then it will stagger them. And some of the games you'll see will be a little further ahead of your game, and some will be a little bit behind.
Nice.
I see.
So
go ahead, Ron. Go ahead.
So how much tweaking did you have to do with the earlier versions to get your own game engine right? Obviously, computer game, you can run as many simulations as you want. How hard was that? How easy was that to do? And talk about that for a minute.
That's a good question. Lots of tweaking. It's not easy to write an accurate game engine.
Right.
The fancy math that we use to combine those two individual cards into a combined card is a very solid algorithm. It's very, very accurate. So getting the number of singles and doubles and triples and strikeouts and walks has always been very accurate.
Right.
What's hard is getting the right number of runs scored. And the right number of stolen bases, and so on. So that's where a lot of the tweaking went on. Things that fell outside of the chart results on that main chart that we create. Those are always solid. But this peripheral stuff was always a challenge. And we handle that with options. So you can tweak certain options if you're finding that your runs are a little bit behind and so on. The game eventually, I think in version 9, it was added. It has a feature, or maybe it was version 10, that you can turn it on and it'll auto calibrate by you fast playing seasons. It keeps an eye on some of those peripheral things, and it adjusts options for you to bring that library into line.
Now, is AI something you had worked on through your real life job?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
My dissertation was in artificial intelligence.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I suppose it really wasn't that much of a problem to teach the computer baseball strategy and all.
Well, no, it's still a hard problem.
How long till we get overtaken by robots?
Well, God forbid. It's coming way too fast and very irresponsibly.
Don't listen to that over there, Madam Speaker. Okay, you're fine.
Right. So the game actually comes. I printed out the cheat sheet here with all the commands that you can put in when you're playing the game. And again, at the very back, it does have strat, pocket, pennant run, and season tickets specific commands. Not all of them, but some. So it just makes it a little bit easier there. So I find that half the fun is when I'm playing a game like Season Ticket. That game challenges me to make sure I get the play right. And then I go to type in the code, and that's like a mini game as well to make sure I get that right. Because sometimes, fly ball to right, this guy's going to tag and he's safe. Did I get it right? Yeah, I got it right. And then sometimes, no, he didn't go to third. Why didn't he go to third? So I got to go back and do that again. But that's been very enjoyable, and it's so fast. I've already learned how to really fly through that and get that in there. That's really kind of fun there. And you had talked about the play-by-play. It's a little clunky to do. It's more coding than anything else. But you said you might try to make that a little bit easier in future releases.
Yeah, I've been working on that a lot actually this week for version 11, and it's going to be a lot easier to create custom play-by-play in version 11.
Okay. Before we get to the questions in the chat room here, I want you to talk about something else here. Something you talked about on the Sabermetrics broadcast that you did. The searching of the reports. That's something that I hadn't thought about, but you did a couple examples of how you can search the reports. Give us a couple examples of things you can search for in this game.
Well, one thing that's fun to do is look for a game and you can do this while you're playing a game. So I'm playing a game and Ryan Howard is facing, I don't know who he's facing. Pick somebody.
Adam Wainwright.
Adam Wainwright. That's a good choice.
Is that Batman? Is that Batman?
No.
Okay. I get them mixed up.
He's the invincible man, the man who will never stop pitching.
It's true.
So let's say Howard hits grand slam
outplayed Yadi Molina for crying out loud.
That's right.
Anyway, so
let's say he hits a grand slam off of Wainwright or a home run, and you're like, boy, I wonder how he's done against his other games against Wainwright. You can hop out of the game. There's a button in the top left that lets you hop out of the game momentarily, and it takes you to the box score search tool. And you can search for all games that have been played so far where Ryan Howard had an at-bat and Wainwright threw a pitch. And then you can look at those box scores and see what they did against each other. And then you can click back into the game and continue.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and
that's
the idea is
insane.
that when you're playing, there's these announcers that are in real life that are telling you all these cool stats.
Right.
You got a guy in the back or a gal in the back who's running all these queries and feeding them data. The purpose of this is to allow you to go and do a little research during the game and see what's happening.
I played a game of season ticket last night, 1979, and it was California at Boston, and this is in May. I'm still in May. And Butch Hobson hit 3 home runs.
Oh, wow.
And I sent Ron a message about like 11 o'clock last night. Hobson's hit 2 home runs. You ain't going to believe this. And then like 20 minutes later, make that 3. So I could jump into the reports and look up Hobson and see if he hit a home run. What his home run?
Show me every game that Hobson hit 1 home run or more than 3 home runs, or show me every game that the Phillies have played that they've been shut out for. There's a ton of things you can query in there, and there's going to be upgrades to that in version 11 as well, because it's a really fun tool.
Now, when you call these up, you get like a little newspaper summary, right? Yep. And then you have the newspaper box score. Then you have an extended box score. And then there's one more thing that you get.
There's the scorecard, and then there is the game summary, and then there's also the play-by-play, and then just the play-by-play for the runs for the scoring plays.
The scoring plays, yeah. I do like the play-by-play by inning, because there was one time that I think I was playing last night and I was spacing out. I was like, wait a sec. I thought that was 3 outs. Yeah. And I went back into the play-by-play and I looked, it's like, oh no, that's right. Just this and that. And, and if you hover over it, the pitcher comes up. So you know who was in there pitching. So boy, I tell you, every game has all those stats just jammed in there. And it's like, it's so fun to go by. I'm a stat guy. I like looking at the stats there.
That's what makes these games what makes baseball so fun.
Yeah.
Is there a replay that you've done testing or playing out itself that just kind of really surprised you or made you understand the season a bit better? Obviously, you've probably done some 2008.
Yeah, I have done 2008. I recently had a problem. I'm trying to see if I can remember the details. It was the 86 Mets. 86 Mets. I had a customer send it to me, and the Mets just couldn't win. They were just they kept coming out of first place and never making it.
Really?
Yeah. Every once in a while that happens. It happened also with St. Louis with Bob Gibson, and they just always finished second. They never would win. And I had to do a lot of work kind of exploring it. And it turned out that there was the ratings, the run ratings for the Mets were no good. And the run ratings it's best to play with the ratings all average because those ratings are already factored into the data.
Right.
But we add them because they're fun. And the Mets were getting the short end of the stick when it came to those run ratings.
That does not break my heart in any way, shape, or form.
When I grew up in Lakewood, New Jersey, Mookie Wilson lived in Lakewood.
Oh, really? Okay.
And the town went absolutely nuts when the Mets were in that World Series.
Oh, I'm sure it did.
Yeah, it was real exciting. But
someone was 14 and not rooting for the Mets. Okay.
Right.
So I guess I had another part of that question.
I got a question for you here.
Okay.
If you wanted to do a what if, can you trade players within the game or move players within the game?
Yeah, people do that all the time. It's a lot of fun to do that. You have to decide what you want to do with transactions when that happens. So that can be a little bit tricky, but yeah, you can definitely move players around and see what would happen.
Okay. I remember what I was going to ask. 69 Mets, a team that did not hit very well, but hit very well with runners in scoring position.
Right.
As Smokey Joe, one of my regulars on a lot of the forums, talks about. How well would they do, and how do you get a tricky team like that, which didn't, again, hit poorly, but hit right in the right time?
They're not gonna win a lot.
Okay.
They got lucky, and there's a lot of people who just don't understand that there are teams that, I mean, the Phillies are a perfect example, but this year, how lucky they got.
Right.
They didn't belong in the World Series, and I'm a lifelong
console yourself with Trey Turner the next 11 years.
Yes, yeah, well, they keep trying, but you're absolutely right, Ron. That's a great question. There are teams that got lucky, and when you replay them in Digital Diamond Baseball, they don't finish first. They maybe finish first 1 out of 10, and people get angry, but they got lucky.
Yeah.
And I guess the opposite would be the 78 Brewers.
Yeah,
and that in a lot of different sims will win that division over the Yankees and the Red Sox simply on the strength of their starting pitching.
Yeah.
But in real life, their bullpen caught up with them. So,
yeah.
Hey, when it comes to injuries, when you're playing a season there, can you turn them off, or is there a point that if someone gets hurt, you can tell that person he's not hurt? How is there any flexibility with injuries?
Yeah. You can always undo any injury that happens. In version 9, we had an injury system. In version 10, we made it an active roster system. And what it does is, a lot of people, they play the as-played lineup, so they never have to make any transaction decisions. They have injuries, but there's always somebody that's brought up for them. But there are libraries that don't have as-plays, like we have all-decade libraries and so on, where you get a team, and now you want to manage them, and you want injuries to happen when you don't expect. And the active roster feature you can set up to do that, where it will randomly deactivate players at a certain intervals based on your settings. And for teams that you have favorited in your library, you have to decide who you're going to bring up. For teams that you didn't favorite, the computer manager does that automatically for you as well. And you can decide how often those injuries happen. So if an injury happens and you're playing that way, and you're like, well, I really don't want that player to get hurt, you can easily undo that. It's kind of cheating, but yes, you can definitely do that.
Okay, I just said no.
Your game, your rules.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. All right.
But for your idea, if you want to do a what if, you can definitely take a player that got hurt, like Chase Utley in 2011, where he was injured for the first third. I could easily go into the transaction and delete the transaction that made him deactivated, and I'd have him for the whole season.
Oh, interesting.
Can
you do a fantasy draft of this?
Yes, there is a draft feature, absolutely. And you can decide to human pick some of them and let the computer pick the other players. Yep.
Okay. So you just basically you go in and say, we're going to do a fantasy draft, and it releases all the players. And
exactly. Yeah. You
okay.
Click the button, it releases the players, combines the duplicate records, and then puts everybody on the free agent team and activates them. And then,
can you determine the order of the draft? So let's just say I wanted to play, whatever. I want to play the Brewers in 70, whatever. And so I'm going to release all the players. Can I set the Brewers to pick first so I can get the overall pick, or is that all random?
Nope, you can definitely do that. You can have it be random. You can set who you want to be the first pick, and you can also do a snake draft as well.
Okay. Okay. And there was actually a question here that I was going to ask you. Fictional players.
We have some cool stuff for fictional players. To start, we have 4 statistically accurate rookie libraries that have fictional names. They're not real players, but a statistician who played the game and who had a big role to play with the combined card algorithm that's used. He's actually a brilliant statistician. He created those libraries by using statistical models. So they're all young, 19 through 22, I think, libraries that you can have Digital Diamond Baseball randomly pick those and throw them on teams. So you have a fictional team of fictional league of rookies. You can
So
also,
is that by era? So you did 20s and 30s and 40s, or
no, they're just thrown
They're
in.
just
I don't know.
thrown in?
I don't know what base of year he used to generate those rookies. But you can also do this. You can install, pick an era. Maybe you want the 50s. You can install a whole bunch of 1950s libraries on your Digital Diamond Baseball.
Mm-hmm.
And you can have Digital Diamond Baseball pick a random set of players from those libraries, give them fake names, and put them in your library.
Oh, nice.
And you can say, give me 100 pitchers, give me 100 first basemen, and it'll go out and randomly grab them and give them fake names. And that could be error specific based on what libraries you've installed and decided to bring those fictional players in.
Nice.
Wow. And can I create Ron and put us in the game?
Absolutely. Yeah. You can
Really? That's cool.
You can put your kids, Little League,
now, how would I go about? Do I have to create my own stats? Or is there like can I just hit generate stats for me, or do I got to put them all in?
The only way to do that is to use that feature where you install a library and have it randomly pick a player to drop into your library, and then you can change the name.
Okay.
But there's a need, especially since people are using the Board Game Companion. They want to put players in, but they don't want to put any stats in because they're irrelevant. And in V11, there's going to be buttons you can hit to get those stats.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's hit the chat room real quick, unless Ron has any more questions for you.
Go ahead.
All righty. So, BJ was talking about the Pine Tar bat
That's
incident.
crazy.
That was the wild story. Yeah, that was kind of funny there. Gary says Digital Diamond is a great game. Yes, we agree.
Gary. Hi, Gary. I know Gary.
Yeah. All righty. So Brandon says, enjoy the fact that you can do some of these fun season ticket rare plays and get most of them entered correctly in the companion. Yeah, that's one thing that was really, really good about that is answering the codes. In fact, I had a one that I couldn't put in. I emailed you and you got back to me and said, I think this is the code that's going to work. So if you get stumped on one, just contact support and they'll
Absolutely, because if I can't do it, I'll add it. So I have a backlog. So and it's just me, but people send me commands you can't put in. They will get in a queue and eventually make it. The goal is to have all these games supported. So just communicate and we'll get that done.
Nice. Bernard asks, is it possible to customize the printed reports?
Not a lot. You can change what columns show up, and that's it.
Okay. Let's see here. Michael asks, when is version 11 coming out?
Good question, Michael. The game always comes out at the same time every year, which is right before the season starts, the last week of March.
Okay. Let's see. BJ also asking, so will there be a few more APA-specific commands for those of us who play APA baseball?
Send me what you want, and I'll put them in there. It's not hard to put those shortcuts in. I don't play APA, so I don't know what they are. But send them to me, and I'd be happy to stick them in there for you.
Brandon adds, would love to jump in and play Cal Ripken's 21-31 game, which he was at. Good job.
Nice.
That would be
a little. There we go. Little
we
applause there. Little applause there for you.
You have to play that one with injuries enabled and see what happens.
So you could jump right into 9/6 1995 and jump in and play any game. And I love doing the one-off. But now that I have this companion that I'm using here and it's simulating the other games, I'm really enjoying being part of a season rather than just playing a one-off. Because like I say, the cards and dice, I can now play cards and dice and be part of something bigger. But with this companion. Luke, I really appreciate this program. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Luke. I appreciate that.
Someone asked if you could buy it elsewhere besides Steam.
Yeah, great question. Get it all the time. The answer is no.
Okay.
The reasons are the number one reason, and people may not like this reason, but when you sell something online and it's sold around the world, you are responsible for collecting those taxes, those sales taxes. And you have to file them individually with every state and every place that you sell them. It's an absolute nightmare. And I did it a couple of years with the game, and it's just too much.
My goodness.
Absolutely nuts. You have to get a lawyer and an accountant to do them for you, and it costs lots of money. And Steam does all that for me.
Nice. Okay.
So that's one big reason why I use Steam. But the other reason is the auto updates, which is also a bit difficult to manage. Steam handles that automatically as well. So it really, that's why I stick with it. I love it. There's lots of people that really do, but there are some customers that won't play because they hate Steam, and it breaks my heart because they were good customers and they love the game. But it's just too much burden to take that on.
Yeah, it's behind the scenes stuff they just don't realize.
It must also just give you a bigger platform of people who may not look for these type of games too to be on Steam.
Very true.
Because I have Digital Diamond on my Steam library, and I have Microsoft Flight Simulator, which was not a development team of one.
Right. It's a great platform for independent gaming. You're right.
Everett says, I didn't know about the out-of-town scoreboard. So cool. Even more drama for our seasons. Yeah, that's the first thing I noticed is I clicked on that, and I just like to pretend I'm at the game, and it's like, hey, let's check the out-of-town scoreboard, and here's who's beating this guy, and this guy's beating that guy, and it's really kind of fun. There was one thing I ran into that I thought it was a bug in the game. So I finished my game, and you know how when you go to the schedule screen, it's like, Mariners at Yankees, and you get the Mariners logo with the picture and the Yankees logo with the picture. But it was like Yankee logo, and then like Angel logo. And I'm like, oh, and then I would go to the month view and go back to the day view. It's like, oh, now it's better. So I'm like, why is it every time I go here, it's showing me the same logo over and over and over instead of, the two different logos. And then I realized those games were played, and it was showing me that the player of the game and the picture of the game or something like that. And I was like, oh, wow, okay, now I get it. Because I couldn't figure that out, but it was those games were played.
Yeah.
And
it used
the
to
winning
keep
team.
Different logos both times, and it would show a player from each team, regardless of who won. And I switched that, and that has confused some people. It still confuses me from time to time.
Because I'm looking, I was like, oh, I was just on this day, and it's like, oh, these are all done. If I click the next day, there we are. Okay, I get that. Okay, let's see, Luke, is there a way to mass import rosters to the game? I am wanting to try a Negro Leagues in Pocket Pennant Run. So we want to bring something from Pocket Pennant Run, mass import that into the companion.
Right. So that's one of the problems is when you're trying to do it from, say, Pocket Pennant, where Pocket Pennant is just ratings and the stats don't matter. Unfortunately, there's no easy way to just import the players and not have to worry about all those stats. And you don't need them in Pocket Pennant, you just need the ratings. But if you do have the stats, there is a way to import them into the game in one big mass of import. And there is a video in our user guide, creating custom libraries, I think is the section. And there's a few videos in there that show you how to create your own custom format of a CSV file. And as long as you have those players in a CSV file with their stats, you can import them in. So you'd have to find a way to get those player stats for that league.
I was about to say, are you able to directly import from Baseball Reference?
Yes, you are. Absolutely.
Okay. So the Negro Leagues would be there because that's all integrated now.
There you go. And actually, we have another feature, which is not directly related to the question, but every year when the new season starts, we allow people to play the game as it proceeds. It's possible to do that. You go to Baseball Reference every 2 weeks, you download the stats, you import it into the game, it updates the players with the new stats, and you can play the game as it unfolds.
Okay, and yeah, BJ says same question about the NPB Japanese baseball, since that one is a part of Pocket Run database.
Yeah,
too,
but it'd be the same thing. It would be Baseball Reference.
Yeah,
Right,
get the
okay.
data from Baseball Reference. If it's a little different than the standard format that Digital Diamond Baseball is using, those videos in creating a custom library will show you how to create your own format, and you can import it right from Baseball Reference that way.
Okay. Everett adds the different end of game / box score options are great. Yeah, I like those myself.
Cool.
And this is one we already addressed. Gandalf was asking, are you going to do a fictional or create players? Yes, you can create players and you can do fictional in there as well. And you said you had videos on that, how to do those?
Yes, there's a video that shows you how to create a fictional library on the user guide. If anybody hasn't found this yet, there's a button on the main menu page. It says user guide. Click on that. It takes you right to the user guide on Steam. And there's a video that shows you how to create a fictional library there.
Okay.
I have somebody in the UK that's creating a fictional library of female baseball players in the UK. And they're a diehard baseball fan in the United Kingdom. And it's a really fun library.
That's fun. Let's see here. Brandon asks, I have a custom league and I've learned how to change the BBREFID so that my 4 different Cal Ripkens can get their individual stats and not be combined. Works now. Thanks. Question, what is the retro ID?
Hi, Brandon. I remember you asking questions about that. I'm glad you got it working.
I'm assuming that he's talking about Retro Sheet.
Yes, he is. That is the Retro Sheet identifier. That's correct. Retro Sheet also has an identifier like Baseball Reference does.
Is that where you get most of your data from, is Retro Sheet?
I get all of the as played lineups from Retro Sheet. I get all the schedules from them as well. And then all the stats for the players come from Baseball Reference.
Okay.
Or Layman. You can do it from Layman as well. We have a modified version of the Layman database that also contains splits. And you can bring in a full library with a few clips from any player, any history, any game, any season in history out of that Layman database right into Digital Diamond Baseball with a few clicks. It's a very powerful way to create a library that contains several teams from different years. And there's a video that shows you how to do that as well in the user guide.
If I wanted to, just thinking this out loud here, so I'm playing my season and I said, you know something, I want to import Babe Ruth or import somebody from the past that was a terrific hitter, bring him into my season and change it to my name. Okay, so instead of Babe Ruth, it's going to be Dave. First of all, can I do that? And secondly, is that going to screw anything up if I change the name of a player? Is that going to screw up an ID or that player?
No, not at all. Go to Player Editor. You can change their name, their age. That doesn't affect play either. The only thing that'll affect how they play is if you play around with any of their stats.
Okay. Okay, so that won't change the ID of that player?
Nope. There's a special field on that says baseball ref and ID, and you don't want to play with that. There are times where you can, like Brandon was talking about, where he changed it because he had many Ripkens in his library. You're okay with that?
Now, is that going to change? Let's just say Babe Ruth. If I go to play that Babe Ruth season, is Babe Ruth now going to be Dave, or will he still be Babe Ruth?
He'll still play like Babe Ruth, but he'll be Dave.
Okay, so once you change a player's name, that player's name is changed.
That's right, and he'll be Dave, but he's going to have a hell of a swing.
So I'm better off creating a new character, so to speak.
If you want him to play differently,
if I just wanted to create like a batter or a pitcher, that was me, you know.
Okay. Oh, that was you. Yeah, you can do that. Just go right in, say new player, enter your name, your age, and then what stats you want to have to make up your player. Do you want to be good? Do you want to be bad? Do you want to be a power hitter? Enter those stats, and he's there. You can put him on any team you want, and he will play.
Could you duplicate a play? Could I duplicate Babe Ruth and then rename myself?
That's a good question. I don't think we have a duplicate.
That'd be the fast way. So we create a brand new ID, duplicate the player.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. And there is no duplicate. That's a great suggestion. I'm going to add that to the list. You cannot duplicate it.
Congratulations. Way to brown nose, Gardner.
No. Again, this is how the game gets better.
Speaking of how making it better, was there a eureka moment for you when you were playing with the first couple versions and, taking out your 64 Phillies and winning that world championship? And aha, I got what I want here.
I love it. I love that question because I do have a moment. When you're creating this engine, I would be getting up, sneaking out of bed at like 5 a.m. before work and trying to get it in. And it took a long time.
Oh, sure it did.
Point where you could play a game, right? And have the computer play against the other computer and play a game. And every day you're getting a little closer, and every day you're getting closer, Mm-hmm. And I remember the day when I clicked the button and off they went playing a game. I'll never forget that.
That's awesome.
It was amazing.
That's so cool. Let's see. Todd B here. Besides the upgrades to the companion board game and the Status Pro cards, what are other things we can look forward to in version 11? Any chance for some ball flight animation or some type of a chalkboard animation?
Before he answers that, George Hendrick will win a Triple Crown if he plays it. It's that Todd B. So I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mark.
I have such a gigantic list of customer suggestions that I just couldn't get to during the version 10. And when I take my break and I do this development from November through March, it's when I can get those things in. There's a very long list of things, from very simple things like what Dave just came up that can make a really big difference, these little things, to some very big stuff as well. The animation thing, people ask for that all the time, and it would be really fun to have it. I don't have a background in computer graphics. So it's something that I shy away from. I'm not an expert at that kind of thing. I've added a little more animation to version 10. You get players kind of fading out and fading in, and windows fading in and fading out. There'll be more of that. But the ball animation, I don't know if that's going to make it. And I know there's always a good 10% of my users that really want it. I'm going to do some searching around for some free libraries that can do that animation for me. And then I can just use those libraries. I did that last time for version 10. I didn't find anything I wanted to use, but it is on the list. And I will certainly make an effort to try and do that if it's something I can do easily.
Does Steam give you any statistics on how people play your game, as in more board game companion or more of that? Anything like that, or no?
No, that's a really good question. It doesn't. It tells me what, how many people are on the Mac, how many people are on Windows.
Right.
But they don't tell me what they're doing in the game. The only indication I have is that, I could see when the game board companion came out at a certain time during Vision 10's life cycle.
Right.
And I could see what happened with sales when that happened. And, based on that, there's a large percentage of people that only bought the game because of the board game companion. It made a big difference. It's a tool that people really wanted, and that it was something that needed to be done. So there are a lot of people who are doing it, but I don't know how many or what they've done.
In regards to your engine, what are you hoping in the future to tweak or change or that for the people who actually want to play digital diamond baseball?
Right. Good question. The charts ability to edit those charts so that you can change exactly what the game engine will do at a certain moment.
Okay.
Going to be there. In addition, the combined card that shows up down at the bottom, where it's always strikeout, out, hit by pitch, walk,
right,
order, is going to be an option to have that shuffled.
Oh,
yeah. And such a simple idea. I was always a customer.
Right.
Such a simple idea. And all of a sudden it's a lot more fun to play with those 3 dice. Because you roll a 987 and it's a strikeout. Like, wait a minute, that's always a home run. No, not anymore. So that one simple suggestion was really a big help. I want to do that as well. And then what else do we have with the engine? Now, that's the biggest thing, the whole thing being driven by charts. The charts will be available. It will be very cumbersome. You could skip the engine altogether and play with dice and the charts and enter the board game companion, and it would work. But it was very cumbersome. I did not design these charts to be fast and easy to navigate.
Right.
So you can see the charts and you know how they work, but not many people are going to sit down and actually play with those charts.
I see. Have you ever added anything to a game between versions that broke something else?
How much time do you have, Dave?
Have I ever added anything to the game that didn't break? That's a better question. Yes. And boy, it's panic time when that happens. And the more complicated the game is, the more that can happen. I do have a good customer base now. So when there's something that has me nervous, I can spin off a beta and my customers can bang on it and find errors. Before version 10, we baited it for 3 or 4 weeks, and they found a ton of things, and that happens when I'm developing all through the winter. I
Yep.
break lots of things, and they help a lot. But yes, it does happen, and I have to be very quick. Another thing about Steam, when I break something, in 5 minutes I can push a button and it goes away.
Oh wow.
It
Okay.
rolls back
Oh wow.
like that.
Oh nice.
The old days I couldn't do that. I have to send an email. Everybody go get this install program, reinstall it. In Steam now, it rolls back.
So convenient. Yeah, Dave and I beta tested a game this fall, and it is really quite the process to go through, because it really,
Oh, yeah.
you change one thing that you think is kind of dates.
Yeah.
It was how dates were presented, and so we said, in a beta patch, it came out the wrong way, and we asked for this, and what do you mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, all good in the end, but just going through that process, yeah, one
of the first things that popped in my head when you guys started playing the game was, I want those guys to beta test. So you will be getting an offer.
Oh, please do. You'd be honored.
That's great.
If you want to do it, you're in there.
Absolutely.
I need people that are knowledgeable, that love the game, and that are understanding, right? I mean, one of the things I really like about, what you guys do is you're understanding, things sometimes.
It was such a blast to do that game.
What was fun is that Ron and I would talk like daily. We put in a lot of hours at that one particular test, and we would come in from different angles. Like I would say, I would like this to look like this, and this to look like that, and this to look like this, to make it better for at least me. And then Ron would come in and find some of the bugs going on behind the scene. So so it was, it was really, like I said, we were hitting them with a 2-prong attack. It was like, this needs to change to look better because this doesn't work. And Ron's like, well, I found a bug with this and I found a bug with that. So we were really, hitting them pretty hard, and we're like, I hope they're not getting mad at us. But in the end, the final product was so good.
Tremendous product.
I'm never upset when somebody reports a bug. I thank them profusely, and everybody does their own thing. So when I do a beta, a lot of times they say, "What do you want me to do?" Do what you do. Do what you want to test.
A couple more things here. Brandon again. He says, "Enjoy your game. When you get a ballpark assigned to a team, does the game play any different based on the park? Not sure what to set factors to or what they do. So talk about the ballpark and ballpark factors."
That's a great question. The ballpark factors are based on how well teams played in certain parks and certain outcomes took place. So some parks give up more home runs than others, and so on. Those ballpark factors are already built into the statistics. So the best and most accurate replay you can get is to turn those off and not have the park affect the play, because it's
all baked in the cake to begin with.
Already baked in. But it's a lot of fun to have them on. So if you're willing to give up a little bit of accuracy for fun, you can turn those on. And Digital Diamond Baseball has an option that allows you to decide how powerful those factors will be taken into.
Could you set, let's say, the Phillies to play other home games at Coors with those factors?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. You can. There's a place called Seamheads that has a ballpark database that has all the factors for all the parks.
I wrote for Mike. Yeah,
those are wonderful. And then you can import those directly into Digital Diamond Baseball if you want, or you can enter them by hand if you want to enter them. And then you can turn them on, and the player's ability, the team will play differently at home and on the road. And it's a lot of fun. Just be aware that when you do that, the accuracy of the game will go down a little bit.
Sports Time Machine, a friend of the channel, says, "Mark, another brick in the wall." Nice background.
Yep.
I guess a good question here by Gandalf again. Can you input stats from an external source? An example I have, 80 games played for the 1987 season. Can I import them into Digital Diamond and finish the season that way?
Oh, interesting.
That's a wonderful question. I spent 4 hours on that today, not doing it, but trying to help somebody who wants to buy the game but doesn't. The only way he wants to get his games in is by importing. The answer is no. It's a big, unfortunate no. The only way you can get those games into Digital Diamond Baseball is to enter the box scores, right? So play the game in Digital Diamond Baseball and quickly enter all of the events that happened in the box score.
So you wouldn't be able to take anything from Ball Stat and do it.
No, that's exactly what they want to do.
Yeah,
exactly what they want to do, and they can't do it. He's thinking about downloading this, exporting the stats out of Digital Diamond Baseball, and putting that in the same format that iScore gives him, right?
Oh,
And
I
it's
see.
very close. I think that might help him, but he can't import it. It's a problem. It's a high on the list for version 11 to be.
Okay.
Yeah, I did that in the past. I think it was a couple of years ago. I was playing a game, and I wanted a box score. And I think I was another program before. It wasn't Digital Diamond. It was another program that I did that. So I went into the game and I just manually typed in, what happened in the game using their companion and spit out a box score. And it actually went pretty quick. I got to say, not that I'd want to do 100 games or so, but I put in 4 or 5 games.
Yeah.
And I got my box scores and my stats, and it flew along because you just have the sheet in front of you, fly ball, ground out, this, that. It moved right along. It really did. So
I have a customer who's entering 100 of them, and what I did was I would watch the Phillies game and during the World Series, and I was scoring the games by hand.
Oh, nice. Okay.
And then I would go sit down in front of the game, and I would enter the commands to get into Digital Diamond Baseball. And I have a library in there of the World Series games that I had scored. And it does, but I would want to do 100.
All right. Bernard says, if you are playing as played, will the CPU manager not use a pitcher in relief that's starting in the next 3 games?
That's correct. That's correct. He will not use somebody who's scheduled to start unless there's some kind of emergency and there's nobody available for some reason. But no, he's designed to not do that. And there's options in there where you can control exactly how careful you want him to be. Is it the next 3 starts, the next 4 starts, the next 5 starts? But yes, he keeps an eye about who's coming up and won't put them in if they're.
So what is the logic in using a starting pitcher in relief? In another game engine, I had Mike Scott. I did 85 was my project last year, and I had Mike Scott was my scheduled starter, but the computer in this other game had used him out of the bullpen the night before. Which is ridiculous because there wasn't any reason to use him, but that's a whole nother story. So when you have someone that obviously makes the late season relief appearance to try to get the team in the playoffs, which I'm sure it was the case for Scott in 85 or whatever, what's the logic for using someone that's primarily, if you pitch 36 times and 35 of them are starts, when's it, what's the logic there for using him in the pen?
That's a good question. This area we're going right now is the number one hardest part of creating the game engine.
Mm-hmm.
It's very difficult to get right. There's tons of options in Digital Diamond Baseball to allow you to tweak this. But for your particular scenario, you would go into the manager profile and you would place that starter as a reliever right before you started your playoffs, for example.
Okay.
And then you could tweak some of the options to make the computer manager more willing to go to that pitcher, and you could get him to start using that starter also in relief.
Todd B says it's a great idea to shuffle or randomize the numbers. I can see both in that. Sometimes I like my consistency, my OCD. Wants to know that low is good and high is bad, or vice versa. And there's a lot of games that do that, and I do like that. So if I know if I roll high, I'm getting excited. And if I roll low, I'm not. So I like, but once in a while, it is nice to, because you look at that, you're like, okay, 0 to 100 is going to be good, whatever, and everything else is bad, whatever it is.
Right.
It is nice to kind of like be surprised once in a while, So I like the option of having.
Would that be randomized once for the season, once for game? I mean,
right. That's a great question. So the options. That's what Digital Diamond Baseball is all about, because everybody's going to want something different. But the idea is for it to shuffle every at bat.
Oh,
but I like the option of keeping it the same during a game or a season if you wanted. Another idea is that you could break them up. So the out box is very wide. That's a big range, right?
Right.
So break that up into 4 boxes and shuffle them all around. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. So now you've got 4 slots that are outs that are shuffled around. And Dave, to accommodate somebody who does want to see a little bit of order in terms of the lower numbers, you could have the outs broken up and sprinkled around amongst the lower numbers. So now a lower number might be a strikeout or an out. Or I don't know, maybe a walk, and those will be in the lower numbers shuffled around. So the idea is to hopefully have a bunch of different options that allow people to try different ways to do it.
So maybe keep like the classic look like you have now, and then a newer look or something.
Yeah, newer look, different ways to decide how those things get broken up. But the customer made that suggestion. I thought about what is it that makes playing with these cards so much more exciting than rolling these 3 dice in Digital Diamond Baseball. And, it made sense. It's because I don't really know what's going to happen. You're right. If it's high, I think it's going to be good, but I still don't know what it's going to be. I think this will really make it a lot more fun to play the traditional Digital Diamond Baseball.
Okay. Let's see here. Brandon had another question. He says, I'm curious, in my custom league, 20 various teams from 79 to 2016, the thought that the AI goes into to get lineups in rotation. No complaints, just curious.
All right. So this is a custom league. So there's no as played lineups. So it's the AI is doing everything. For the lineups, it's going to look in your manager profile. And if your profile says make the lineup without any substitutions, it will put in the lineup exactly what you asked it to. If you have lineup substitutions enabled, it will substitute automatically from the bench based on the probabilities you added and change the lineup that you'd put in there from time to time as it does substitutions. As far as the rotation, same thing. It will follow the rotation exactly, but if you have spot starts turned on and enabled, it will randomly spot start pitchers in those slots.
Will it use a weighted average of all those teams to try to come up with cards? So let's say if you use like the 79 Phillies and the 85 Cardinals, or let's say the 30 Philadelphia A's, which would just throw everything off the scale because they were such good offense. Would the computer just kind of average that all together to make the cards, or the cards based on the team?
Right. So when you in Digital Diamond Baseball, you assign a year to a player,
Mm-hmm.
and then how well they play is determined based on how well they did compared to other players in that year.
Okay.
So it doesn't have to be that way. You could assign just a year, the same year to everyone, or you could assign each player to the year, whether or not you wanted to consider its performance based on its peers in the year or based on some other year.
So there's so there's a table that it checks against. If you're saying that it's 1979 Mike Schmidt and playing against 2013 St. Louis Cardinals, it's going to look at the 79 for Schmidt's.
Yeah, the performance of each player is based on comparing it to the league average of the year that they're assigned to.
Okay, so it doesn't refigure. So if you take teams from a variety of different eras, it's not going to refigure it based on the teams and the stats that are in the custom league.
That's correct. Well, they could. You could do that too in Digital Diamond Baseball. You could do a league average that's from the entire custom league.
I guess what I'm asking is, does that figure that out already, or is it referring to another table? Okay, I use 1956 Ernie Bent. The 56 Cubs are going to be based against the 78 Cubs. You'll be looking at the 56 table for the 56 Cubs and the 78 for 78, or is it going to try to smooth them out in average?
You got 3 choices.
Okay.
Any of those 3.
Okay.
Any of those 3, and you'll get slightly different results. When
I would think so. Yeah.
We have a question here from a real handsome guy. He says, any chance that they have 1899 so I can play the Spiders? He's all choked up at that one.
Those old seasons are just so hard to get right.
I understand.
No, here's the thing. It is to do those seasons right. It's a lot of work because you have to do research going into old box scores.
Yeah.
And so on. And I have customers that are doing that.
Slybell, I believe, has done some of those, right?
What's that?
Slybell has done some of those, right?
Yes, he has. And Edward Summers has done a lot of them. In fact, he's taken us through the 30s and into the 20s with unbelievable amount of work to build those libraries. You could build that library right now, Dave, if you wanted to do it, by going into Layman in Digital Diamond Baseball and importing right out of Layman. It'll take you 3 minutes to get the entire 1899 season in your library. You will not have split stats. You will not have as played lineups, but you will have everything else and you can play it.
Oh, wow.
The libraries we publish for people to install, we want to have everything it could possibly have. But you can have any season you want through Layman. It'll just be missing certain things like ass plate lamps.
I might have to learn how to do that. You know?
Yeah.
Did you know, Dave, that they
Really
actually
good
won the
team.
championship in 1894?
I knew they were a good team before they had that weird split with St. Louis.
A couple of videos popped up in my YouTube recommendations about the 1894 world champion Cleveland Spiders.
Wow.
We had this book here, Misfits, baseball's first ever team, by J.T. Hetrick. We had him on the show here talking, and I learned so much about the 1899
It was
Spiders.
great. It was a wonderful night. Yeah.
Oh, we chatted all night with him. We talked old baseball. I learned so much about 1899 baseball. It was so fun. The book was great. The interview was great, and I love playing the Spiders.
Entire team got cirrhosis of the liver, I think, after.
It's really fun to read a book and then play a game based on what you've read.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really know.
I think he actually did every game that they
Yes,
played.
I believe every.
He had a blurb about every single game, so you had an idea what happened in every
Wow.
game. You know, it was kind of neat that he did all that
awesome.
search. All right, getting back to the questions here. They're piling up, so I apologize. We're going to get to them. Randy says, I'm concerned about the out section. Are outs generic, or do players who ground into DPs more prone, or pitchers who are ground ball pitchers represented?
The ground ball fly out ratios of the players and batters are not taken into consideration. The likelihood of hitting a ground ball versus a line drive versus a fly ball is based on the year, the season you're playing's league average for the ground balls versus fly balls. They do not take into account individual tendencies to do that. It would be really cool to have that. It is on the list. It's a big ask, but it will make it into the game someday.
Do those splits exist? And if so, how far back do they go?
That's always the problem, right? I know it exists now. I don't know how far back it would go.
Okay. I see Pesky Poll chimes and says, that was his biggest peeve, how the AI uses pictures. PC replay is real good, and so was Digital Diamond when we were talking about
very, very hard to get that right.
Yeah.
Very hard.
World Rest Gamer, does version 10 have it where we can set pitchers to be pulled after a certain amount of runs? Would be nice to be able to set it global or team by team.
There is a global option for that, and it allows you to set a certain number of runs. We call it the shelled parameter, certain number of runs. Or there's also a feature that allows you to, it will take them out of a certain number of runs, but the number of runs that it decides to take them out is based on how many complete games they had. So if they had a lot of complete games, it will leave them in a little bit longer when they exceed some run limit. And if they didn't have a lot of complete games, it'll be quicker to pull them. But in that situation, it will pull them based on the number of runs that they've given up. Or you can disable it completely. As for team by team, there's a manager profile that allows you to specify whether you want the manager to be quick to pull the starters or not as quick, but it doesn't do it based on runs. The only way to do it based on runs is with that global option.
Okay. Thinking back to creating the player, let's just say I called up Sandy Koufax. Okay. Could I print him out, and follow me on this? So, because I have another baseball game that Ron's my ace relief pitcher. Okay, he's my closer. So every game I bring in Ron at the end. So could I bring up Sandy Koufax on the screen? Could I print that so when I created Ron in my game, I could just type in all the Koufax stats?
Oh yeah, definitely. You can do that. You can also do a screenshot of it with your, Snagit.
Yeah.
And then you could have that, and then you could type off of that.
Okay. Yeah, because I didn't know if I could print out a couple of players and have them here instead of going back and forth and trying to figure it out. So
you could go to the reports page and choose whatever team that you want to have the players for, and you can get the roster or the stats, the real life stats for those players, and hit export, and then you'll get a CSV or a HTML file that you can print out, and you can have that next to you.
Okay. Another question from Gandalf. Do you have a place to see how close a player is playing to real life?
That's a good question. Very good question. The reports, when I do this to see how well the stats are coming out, I go to reports and I look at the league reports, and it shows me the stats for the American League, National League, and combined. And I compare that to Baseball Reference. So I don't do it all within Digital Diamond Baseball. I have Digital Diamond Baseball open on the left side of my screen, and Baseball Reference open on the right side, and I look at it there. You can look for players. Every player you can look at in their player pop-up. It shows you how they're doing in the replay and how they did in real life side by side. So you can always see how the players are doing compared to real life. But as far as the leagues, you have to do it by comparing it to Baseball Reference.
Okay. Brandon says, I agree with Pesky Pole. I love how Digital Diamond has used my 1990 Reds Nasty Boys so far.
That's great.
Randy says, anytime you start off with these 4 words, I agree with Dave. You know you're going to get on the screen. So if those 4 words get you on the screen all the time. So Randy, you're
the preceding is not necessarily the view of Digital Advice or its guests. Go ahead.
Randy says, I agree with Dave about the randomizing. It's like hearing the crack of a bat when you're a good when you roll a good number, like a 66 in APA. So so the randomizing is fun, but sometimes it is like you say, if you know the 66 is a good hit and then all of a sudden you randomize the 66 was a bad hit, well, now you have to decide, how do I want that laid out on the screen?
Yeah, I get that. I mean, I play Status Pro a lot, and anytime you get a large number for your random number, you know it's going to be an out. You just don't know what kind of out, and it's kind of fun to flip that card and see that high number.
Friend of the show, ID Jester, who plays a ton of baseball games. Hello there, guys. Good to catch you live for a change. Yep, good to see you, ID. Al, Red Sox, what roles cause an error, and what roles cause a great catch, aka robbing a hit?
Good question. So with the roll for errors, every time there's a roll before the play, it works a lot like Status Pro. Every 10 times on average, it does an error check. And then it rolls based on who the ball was hit to. It rolls a die and sees whether or not that roll is less than or equal to their error percentage. And if it is, then it's an error. So there's a check that happens every 10th. I forget the exact number. Every 10th play that stops the press, rolls against a check against that player, that fielder, and determines whether there was an error.
So let's say Butch Hobson in 78 with his 893 fielding percentage. So if it rolls a number between 0 and 893, it's not an error. But if it rolls an 894 or higher, it would be.
That's correct, but only if there was an error check on that player, which happens a certain percentage less. So it's calibrated for the number of times that it does an error check and then the error check, so that it comes out equal to what that fielding check would be. And that's how you don't want to do an error check on every roll, right, in these games. So they have it's in version 11, we're going to actually mimic that exactly, because we're going to do it completely with charts that the error checks will happen a certain frequency, and then you'll do your error check.
But they'd be random, give or take 1 in every 10, or is it?
I think the way we're doing it is one of the die, you're rolling a 10-sided die, and if it comes up as a 5, it's an error check.
Okay. So yes.
So it is random. So over time, it'll be on an average.
He follows up. So the error is sort of a closed engine in the background.
Yeah, it's kind of like every time there's a play, a dice roll, before it resolves that dice roll, it does an error check roll. The best way to think of it.
Okay. Let's see. Pesky Pole was chiming in here and says that's a great way to do it. It should be based on how they were compared to in the era when we were talking about the different teams there.
Right.
That's why he loves.
That's why OPS plus is a great stat.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a great way to think of the way Digital Diamond Baseball does its stats. It does it relative to the league, just like OPS plus. You're welcome.
Okay. Let's see. I know Digital Diamond will work on iOS. Any chance in the future it will be available for iPad? That's
a good question. There was an iPad version out there, and it was available for iPad, and it was a limited game. So you didn't play entire seasons. You could only replay playoff seasons, and nobody bought it. So I got rid of it. To have this entire Digital Diamond Baseball converted to an iPad, one of the reasons why it's difficult to do is because the game uses Java, and iPad doesn't play very nicely with that. So it'd be much easier to do it for Android at some point. It's a lot of work for just me. If I did it, it would be the only thing I could do for the year. Believe me, I would love to sit down and play it on the iPad too. but it's a task. I'm not sure when that would happen.
That little green light that flashes in the left corner, what is that? And should I be concerned if it's not flashing?
That's the heartbeat. And if it stops flashing, it means your game is dead, and you'll have to restart it. The nice thing about Digital Diamond Baseball is it's constantly saving your state. So anytime if the game does crash, when you come back in, it's right there waiting for you. It blinks green, meaning that the heart is beating, but nothing's going on. And when you see it turn red, it's processing some kind of a dice roll or a play that's going on.
Okay. Pesky Paul, he was a little late to the conversation here. You don't have to go through it all again. But he was asking about version 11. When is that coming out? Will be new. Just kind of just briefly recap that real quick
Sure.
for anybody
Every
jumping
year
in.
it comes out at the same time, which is the last week in March, right before the real MLB season starts.
Okay. And as far as what was new, what are some of the big highlights that you were talking
Well,
about?
we're going to make the game engine chart driven so that you can know exactly what the engine is doing when it's doing it. We're going to add support for Status Pro so that there will be Status Pro cards in the game digitally, so you could play the board game companion using Status Pro without having to buy any seasons. I also hope to be able to print those cards, so you can actually have them printed as well. What else are we doing? We're improving the play-by-play system, so it's much easier to generate or customize the play-by-play. And those are some of the big ones, but there's a very long list that I have from suggestions.
How difficult is it going to be to implement Status Pro? We talked earlier about it being, now you have 3 games in one, your game, bring your own game in Status Pro. I mean, how hard is it going to be for people to figure that, or for the computer to figure out what it is they're actually playing?
Right. So the Status Pro part will be a board game companion thing. So you will be actually controlling what happens and just entering the board game commands.
Okay.
But so all I have to do is generate the cards, and the algorithm is open source, and it's not that hard to actually generate those cards on the fly.
Okay. Another question here from Gandalf, and we'll wrap up here in a couple of minutes. So get your questions in real quick so we can wrap this up tonight. Can you play head-to-head over the net, and can you export games to share in a league?
That's a great question. I wish more people use this to play leagues, but they don't. You can't play head-to-head on the net. You can do that with any one of these amazing. The pandemic was the best thing for head-to-head baseball playing. You can use any of these great tools, Zoom, Google Chat, you name it, and you can agree to join in, and you can play head-to-head that way with Digital Diamond Baseball very easily. Digital Diamond Baseball has a feature that allows you to export a played game, send it to your commissioner, and they can import it back into the Master League. So
nice.
League play. Nobody's used it. I'd love it if somebody did. There's probably some bugs because nobody's used it, but I'm very happy to support that. I would love to see more leagues.
Yeah, ID Jester says this is good. Excited to see this when it's finished. I'm enjoying version 10. Version 11 sounds great, but I'm enjoying version 10 very, very much.
Thank you.
Great question here by Brandon. What's the difference between watch and quick watch?
Good question. Watch sets off a series where they're just going to play and you're just going to watch, and you have to stop it. It's just going to go off and play. Quick watch, just quick plays allows you to watch just the next play. So you hit it, it plays one play, stops. Watch, you hit it, and it plays and plays and plays until you say stop. It's a minor difference, but a lot of people when you try to stop the watch play, sometimes you don't get it to stop right when you wanted it to. When you watch just the play, you're guaranteed to be able to pick it up after.
Okay. There's been a couple of times that I was in a game, and for some reason I just don't want to finish this game. And I tried to sim to the end, but it made me sim to like the 9th inning or something like that. Is there a way that I can just kind of leave the game and just say finish it without me?
That's a good question. That's a weird quirk in the game that was a result of an issue where I couldn't get it to fast play to the end of the game. It was a bug and I couldn't fix it. So what you have to do is fast play to the 9th inning and then play through the end of the last inning.
Okay.
So you have to do 2 quick watches instead of one. You say fast play to 9th inning, fast play till end of inning.
Okay.
I plan on revisiting that in version 11 and hopefully being able to fix that bug so you can just fast play all the way through.
Okay.
What about the new rules in the last couple of years, such as, facing mandatory 3 batters and ghost runners and extra innings, all those things that maybe most of our viewers think is garbage, but those be the new rules, and those be the new rules. How hard was it to implement those changes?
That wasn't bad. For the three batter face rule, it doesn't require the person who's manually playing to do it. They have to do it by the honor system. The computer manager will always leave them in until they faced three or the end of the inning. The human manager should do it, but they're not forced to.
Right.
It wasn't too bad to do, and we've got a nice little alternate rules options, which allows you to turn on all kinds of different option rules, like the sacrifice fly rule, and so on. And those rules are in there as well.
Okay.
Oh, the hard one. One of the hard ones was the Otani rule.
Oh, the DH and pitcher. Yeah.
Yeah, that's in there now. That was a tricky one to do.
What about the Ghost Runner?
Ghost Runner was fun and not too bad. Yep. I have a problem with baseball. It takes too long to watch.
Yeah.
And so I like a lot of these rules, and I can't wait for next year.
I'm excited for the pitch clock.
Oh, I cannot wait. Cannot wait.
Send your cards and letters too.
So, all righty. Well, we've gone on a while here, but boy, there was we had a lively chat room tonight.
Yeah.
We had a lot of people in there. We had a lot of great questions in here from the people. Again, we are talking with Mark Cohen. He is the creator of Digital Diamond Baseball on the PC. And again, this game doubles as a companion, which has got me playing cards and dice baseball. And there's nothing wrong with the Digital Diamond game itself.
No, not
But
at all.
we all have our favorites. And what this is really great for is, Ron was talking, because, we play the pocket pennant, but Ron can't really play that. Well, now he can play that with the helper, because pocket pennant run has everybody on a team card. It's not an individual card. So he can just call that up on his screen or input it. Oh, no, that's the other thing. So I have 1979, and I have all the players rated for pocket pennant run, or almost all rated. Can I send that to Ron so he doesn't have to do all that again?
Absolutely. Do a backup. Back up that library with the backup button. Go to your backups folder. You'll see it in there. There'll be a file there. Send it to Ron. Ron goes in there on the main menu page, restore from backup, browse to that file. Bam, he's got it.
Okay,
Nice.
so that was so he could play pocket pennant run right on the screen, and you wouldn't even need the team cards really at that point.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
You can just email those or put them on Dropbox and share them with whoever you want.
Yep. Nice.
So the replay game was, I've been watching a lot of replay game. He's been playing a lot of games on his channel, so I started watching him again. I would like watching him play payoff pitch, and I pulled that out and I played payoff pitch using Digital Diamond, and it's funny, someone requested that, and I haven't broadcasted it yet because I had to go back and relearn how to play payoff pitch. Yeah. But I will. I did play a game of payoff pitch in my 1979 replay, and I will get a video up of that as well. So that is coming as well.
Be fun to see. Yeah.
And World's Worst Gamer says he's excited for the pitcher clock. Zach Lidis, Ron. Pesky Paul, this is great. Looking forward to going back and listening from the beginning. Yeah, thanks. And another pitch clock is great. He goes to a lot of college games and had it for years. That's great. So, all righty. So, okay, Mark, where can we find your game? Tell us a little bit about this game as we wrap up. So if somebody wants to pick up Digital Diamond.
All right. Quick comment before I talk about that. This is a great hobby, right? We love this hobby. And the community really needs to support these great games. So go out there, and if you can afford it and you're interested, buy your pocket pennants, buy your payoff pitch. Support these people that are creating these games and making this hobby just explode. We need those people. We need to support them as much as we can. Okay, what was your question? Sorry.
Where can we buy your game?
What's that? Oh, where do you buy it? Steam.
Yep. Okay. Go to Steam, search for Digital Diamond Baseball, and that calls it right up. And that's the only place you can get it right now is through Steam.
You have a website too?
Yeah, there's a website. I don't do a lot on it, but there's actually an interesting page on there which gives links to all of the customer created libraries. We have the Women's Baseball League. You know that book about card baseball? I can't remember what it's called now, but I read it. The guy is addicted to the game, and what's that called?
Oh, is that the J. Henry Waugh or something like that?
Yes. Somebody made a library based on that book, and all the players in the book are in that library. There's Nippon Baseball. There are all kinds of great libraries you can get off of that web.
Nice.
DigitalDiamondBaseball.com.
Okay. Yep. And again, the game is on Steam, and there's a lot of videos on Steam and I suggest watching them because it's a little different when you first get into it, it's a little different than a lot of the games that you've probably played. So the videos are pretty quick for the most part. I think it links right to YouTube so you can watch them. And I watched a handful of them, and it really does get you up and running. So if you want to, like, pull the picture out or pinch hit, the videos really get right into how you do it. None of it's difficult, but it's just when you see it done once, you're like, okay, now I know how to do that. Like I was trying to set up my lineup one time, and I was stumbling my way through it, and I watched the videos like, okay, that makes more sense now. So just it like every game has its little quirks, and they do things their own way. So the videos really help with that. If you want to get into the game here, watch the videos through Steam. K-Fan jumped in here at the last minute. Thank you, gentlemen. Really looking forward to get this one a spin. The companion capability closed the deal for me. The Status Pro cards will be awesome too. Yes, the idea that you can play any game and just dump in the codes, and it's so fast.
Yeah.
Really, it's like, okay, ground ball 4, G4, done. Next battle.
Yeah.
And what I really like at the bottom of the screen, okay, this is one of my favorite features, is where I have all the pitcher and then the batter pictures of all the players. It says R or L, right? So it's like, if I ever wonder if the pitcher's a righty or a lefty, or if the batter's a righty or lefty, it shows it right on the screen. And the batter obviously hits from a certain side, but I'm always looking down rather than look at the cards. I'm always looking down to see, who's up, who's hitting, what they're thing. And I love how you can change the bottom too to say they're 0 for 2. Excuse me, what are they doing today? Or how many strikeouts do they have? I would like to see if it would show me how many strikeouts they had in that game.
Yeah.
Whereas right now, I think it's only season total.
Yeah.
So when you get to strikeout, it's like he's had 36 strikeouts this year. It's like, okay, that's not 36 strikeouts today. It's 36 strikeouts. If you click on him, you can get how many strikeouts he had today. But it's kind of like I say, that's just a little thing that I would like to see there.
The number one request right now in the game is to add more stats to that screen. So we got to find a way to squeeze them in. And version 11, that's a big thing to do. More stats. People want to see more stuff on that screen.
Yep. So anyway. All righty, so we're going to wrap this up. Mark, don't go away. We're going to sign off, but you hang on here. So we have some parting gifts for you. We don't, but we like to say that, so we can just chat after for a minute here. But to everybody in the chat room, thank you so much. This has been a great discussion. This has been a very lively discussion of Digital Diamond Baseball, and we learned a lot about it and learned a lot about what's coming up in version 11 in the whole bit. So, Mark, again, thank you. Stay with us, but thank you for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. It was fun.
Okay. And everybody in the chat room, thank you so much. And we will talk to everybody later in the chat. Thank you.
Have a good night.